We have one more item here. So next up, we're going to consider approval of a room block rental agreement with BP Hospitality LLC for $2,100,000 to provide isolation and quarantine housing related to COVID-19 for county residents with no other source of housing through March 21st, 2021. Ryan Matthews.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is Ryan Matthews, Interim Administrator for Health and Human Services, and I'm here seeking approval of a room block agreement between Marion County Health and Human Services and the Super 8 Hotel in Woodburn. This is a 9-month contract with an estimated total of $2.1 million. What precipitated this need is, as you recall, the Phase 1 reopening efforts required that Marion County attest to having sufficient capacity to isolate and quarantine those impacted by COVID-19 in our community. The intended population of this facility will be those that are positive or presumptive COVID-19 cases and those that are unable to self-isolate, individuals being released from endemic facilities, high-risk populations such as our migrant and seasonal farm workers, those in congregate care settings, vulnerable populations, and people that live in multi-generational housing that are unable to self-isolate without putting other people that are in high-risk populations at risk of catching COVID-19. This will be funded by CARES Act dollars that we'll be addressing actually in a later item on board session, an amendment from Oregon Health Authority, as well as we've been coordinating with FEMA for direct reimbursement for any expenses that exceed the CARES Act reimbursement. One of the things that made this hotel arrangement attractive for us is the hotel owner will be still maintaining their hotel staff 24/7 around the clock to run the logistical day-to-day operations of the hotel, even though it will be closed to the public, but it'll help support the individuals that we have residing in the rooms as well as our staff. And we've continued to work on securing additional supports and services that are needed to support this effort. We will have a nurse on site to monitor symptoms and take temperature. We have security 24/7. We've arranged for laundry pickup and delivery to support the individuals that are unable to leave the rooms, as well as food delivery. And then we're working with a company to do the deep cleaning and sanitation of rooms in between use to make sure that it's safe for any future occupants. In working with our epidemiology team, this is an invaluable resource that we believe really helps us in our fight against the spread of COVID-19, and we think that this is going to have a tremendously positive impact on our community and our overall safety. So with that, I'm available to answer any questions that you might have.
I just have a question right off the bat, if I could. Could you just talk a little bit about what would happen if we didn't have a facility like this? I mean, what's the alternative? Like if we don't rent these rooms and have a place for people who don't have a place to quarantine, what happens?
Well, you run the risk of being unable to isolate people, so it puts the health of our general community at risk, or if they are forced to sort of stay within their home, it puts their loved ones at risk of catching the disease. I think it really, ultimately, we are looking at a way to try to keep our entire community safe, as well as the safety of the individual. So I think it's really important, and it is a requirement from Oregon Health Authority that we have isolation and quarantine capacity. I think when you think about our farm worker population, for example, that is a population that can be disproportionately impacted by COVID-19, and farmers are not going to necessarily be equipped with the way those facilities operate to be able to isolate and quarantine that section of the population. So it starts to put our farm owners at risk as well of figuring out how they can operate their businesses and do so in a safe manner to keep all their workers safe.
Thank you, Ryan. Questions for Ryan?
Well, we're getting a lot of concerns about how we protect the surrounding neighborhoods. So have you given any real thought, or maybe it's too early for that, but some assurance that these people aren't wandering about or exposing sensitive population or vulnerable populations?
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Absolutely. I mean, that was one of our significant concerns when we started to go down the road of this project as well. We want to make sure that the community and those people that work in this hotel are kept safe. We do have a user agreement form that anybody enrolled in this program has to sign that has expectations such as that you will not leave the room under any circumstances. And we've built enough supports around people that there should be no reason that they would need to leave the room. We are going to have 24/7 security on site, and we've been working with our sheriff's office to make sure that we have deputies and parole officers officers there around the clock to address any needs and to certainly follow up with any individual that were to violate the rules of the hotel stay, and that would forfeit their ability to stay in the hotel. I think that we also believe that because this is going to be a high-quality facility and we're going to have supports available to them in terms of food and laundry services, and there'll be televisions and things in the room, that we believe that people are going to be motivated to want to stay to get better before they, put their health at risk or the health of our community at risk. But we certainly are going to have security available there to enforce that if need be.
Thank you.
And then the other one I'm hearing is a whole lot of concern about out of the prison system, out of Marion County Jail. I don't think that's ever been the biggest subject there. But I want to make clear, and I want you to make clear, that these are Marion County residents that need to be somewhere in Marion County.
Right. These are people that were already scheduled to be released and go into the parole and probation system. And we have advanced knowledge. We usually have about a 30-day window ahead of time, so we've already looked into July, and there's 5 or 6 individuals that we believe are going to be released that would otherwise be homeless or unable to self-isolate. And this is related to the fact that we have some of our correctional institutions that are deemed as endemic facilities, which means that COVID-19 is fairly rampant in those areas, and they require that people be quarantined for 14 days before heading into a shelter or whatever their other destination would be. So that population will be one that will fit the criteria for this hotel, but once their stay is over, we will be taking them to the community in which they reside. We will provide transportation to anybody that's in the hotel as they depart the hotel. They won't be left in that community to sort of fend for themselves. If they live in Salem, we will return them to Salem. If there's a shelter that they were supposed to go to, we'll take them to that shelter. So we will kind of close the loop to make sure they get in the area that that they reside.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you. I just want to say this, that Ryan, thank you for your work, and Katrina. This has been since March 17th, when we shut down the whole state, or the governor shut down the whole state. This has been, I said this morning to somebody on the phone, my 15-year career in politics, this has been one of the most trying, difficult times, and decision-making, and how fast we've had to make decisions and react. None of us here have ever faced a pandemic before. And what I want to clarify, there's a lot of misinformation that's floating around on Facebook and on the internet, and I want to take responsibility for a blind spot in my own communication. As I was going through this process, it started with the farm worker housing and working with the Marion County Farm Bureau, and the directive to us to be able to find housing for people who are exposed, not necessarily even COVID infected, but have been exposed. So there's some people that may go there that just need to isolate for 14 days. I want to clarify that I will say this, probably should have reached out to the leadership and communicated earlier to them what this is, what it is not, but we have to do this. And what it is not, and I'm just reading one of these things, it is not where we're taking prisoners. These people have served their time. I've served on the Governor's Reentry Council now since 2007. I believe in second chances. These are people that have done wrong, served their time. You mentioned maybe 5 or 6 people that are going to come out that may need this, that will need this isolation, because I've been in the state penitentiary, and fortunately I got out the same day I went in. And if anybody's ever gone there and seen the conditions that these people are under, it's not positive. So they're going to come out. Our parole and probation department does a great job. I want to compliment them and former Commissioner Janet Carlson for the work that we've done in reentry. So these people will be supervised, and they will be under a supervision. We'll have security in this hotel. They will have a parole and probation contract that if they violate, there will be consequences to that. They're not going to be wandering the streets wherever this hotel is. They're not going to be wandering around. And I want to those 5 or 6 people in July, when they have been isolated and after that 14-day period, and I think you already said this, they will be transported where they have a home or to a shelter or wherever they would have gone to naturally. It's a tough day, and we have to make tough decisions here. And I apologize to those people who maybe I didn't communicate with ahead of time. And I said this yesterday. I probably was for an hour and a half doing media interviews, one after another, saying, "Hey, look, I'm willing to take the shots here. I'm willing to take the bullets here, and I accept the responsibility for this decision that I'm about to make on this contract." And I think it's really important that we understand that we're trying to protect the whole 340,000 citizens of Marion County plus, because this virus does not know county borders. And we will protect the people that are concerned about their health and their safety. I'm sorry that there's been information put out there that is wrong and that has caused this scary thought. Of course, you read it on the internet, it's true. I'll accept responsibility for the decision I'm going to make right here today. And yeah, I want to thank you, and I want to thank the Sheriff's Department, the Health Department, the contractors that you're working with, and I want to thank the people who are going to be working this issue too. So, Mr. Chair, I think I said enough.
Thank you, and thank you for your work on this. And I think that's something that maybe hasn't been said, which is, I know Commissioner Cameron has worked on this night and day for over a month now. From those very first calls with the farmers and the farm workers, you were the first person to reach out to different hotels in the area, and I just want to thank you publicly for your work on this. This is important, it is necessary, and I think, you know, sometimes in this job the reality is we have 2 choices that maybe we wish we had another choice, right? A lot of times we wish there was a third door, but there isn't always a third door. And this is one of those cases where there are only 2 doors. And one door is people who have been exposed to COVID or are COVID positive go into homeless shelters and potentially spread the disease to hundreds of people in our homeless shelters or on our streets, or in our neighborhoods, right? That's one option. The other option is we have a place where people who don't have a place to stay and be safe can go and be safe under supervision, with medical staff, with support, and we can make sure that those people aren't spreading the disease to our community. And so this is the right decision. And I just want to reiterate, this is not a prison. So no one who is serving a sentence will spend time in this hotel. The people who are going to spend time in this hotel are free men and women. Whether they've served a sentence in the past or not is not relevant. They're still American citizens and they have rights just like anybody else. This really is a place for people who don't have a place where they can safely quarantine. Some of those folks may be folks that are released from prison. Some of those folks may be folks who are migrant farm workers. Some of those folks may be folks who are homeless. This is not a situation where we're going to discriminate and say based on, you know, what kind of American citizen you are, you can get in or you can't get in. This is really a resource to keep our community safe. And it's a necessary resource to keep our community safe. So again, I just want to thank you, Commissioner Cameron, for your work on this. This is the best option. It's a necessary option, and without your work on this, we wouldn't be able to do it. And yeah. I think the last thing I want to say is we also looked hard for a place that would partner with us. It's, you know, we looked county-wide. We talked to facilities in Salem. It was a real effort to find a facility that we could partner with. And again, that's a credit to you. Yeah, but I won't ignore the blind spot of not communicating, because I've been communicating with as many people as possible. So I'm not going to ignore that. But I also want to say, this could be, I'm thinking of my daughter, right? I stay with her once in a while in Kaiser, and I'm thinking of my daughter. She's in a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. You can't self-isolate in a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. You have to have your own bathroom.
So this could be, this could be our kids that have to go there. So it's not, it's going to be a good thing for Marion County, and I'll go up and explain myself to anybody who wants to. I'll take the bullets. I didn't get in this job to not make tough decisions. So, Jane, you want to share a little bit about maybe why we're here?
Yes, I think the board considered this contract under contract review board. Typically, we wouldn't do that from the nature of this contract. However, on March 16th, 2020, the Board of Commissioners formally declared a state of emergency in Marion County due to the COVID pandemic. As part of that resolution, they resolved that emergency procurements of goods and services are authorized under ORS 279B080. This contract fits within that statute, and so that is the reason why you are taking this as contract under the contract review board, and this procurement is pursuant to your emergency powers.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, you ready for a motion?
Right.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve of a room block rental agreement with BP Hospitality LLC for $2,100,000 to provide isolation and quarantine housing related to COVID-19 for county residents with no other source of housing through March 21st, 2021.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I did forget. This is not unique to Marion County. Every county has to do this. And I heard one county, I think our administrator, Lane County, purchased a hotel. We don't want to be in the hotel business. We want to keep those in the hands of private businesses that pay taxes. The other thing I will say is that on this contract, there's a full transportation occupancy tax, 100% occupancy that will be paid to the city of Woodburn over this contract of 9 months. You show me a hotel in the state of Oregon that has 100% occupancy for 9 months and collect that TOT tax. So there's a financial benefit, or they're not being hurt financially too. So I think that was another clear point, is that the TOT tax will be paid by the owner of the hotel through the rooms that we are renting. So I wanted to make that clear too. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is a condition of us being in phase 2. I mean, that's very clear
correct.
from the governor. Her perspective is if you don't have this, you don't get to enter phase 2 and you don't get to be back in business. So this is necessary for our community. I think that's also an important point. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. The motion passes.